Hi, everyone. All right, so I'm able to talk just for 10 minutes about a paper I've been working on for 6 months or so, and the paper's actually much longer. If anyone wants the longer version, just feel free to reach out to me at Vassar College. So you can see from my title there that I'm going to talk about, well, I'm going to talk about the internet as a place of the quote, return of the repressed, and thinking about these subreddits on reddit.com, looking at paranormal experiences, spiritual experiences, and especially the sub called Glitch in the Matrix. So I wanted to start by saying that, one way I'm thinking about the internet is as a place of the return of the repressed, as some scholars have said, a place for the expression of forbidden and unconventional desires, emotions, and viewpoints where they rise to the surface. In this paper today, I'm going to consider how the internet facilitates the expression of unconventional religious or spiritual views in particular that have been repressed in secular modernity. And so I look at several Reddit subs, but today I'm looking in particular at the Reddit discussion group or sub called R Glitch in the Matrix. And I want to point to ways that I think this is a new sort of expressive public space characterized by a number of things like spiritual questing, irreverent exchanges, spiritual but not religious anti-clericalism, playful spiritual commitment, and so on. And I also want to make the point that I think the aesthetic and the technological features of Reddit's digital platform make these kinds of unusual experiences of dissociation, spiritual transformation, or ghostly haunting seem plausible and seem persuasive to people. So I'm certainly not the first person to claim that the internet allows for the expression of repressed experiences and emotions, right? A number of people have talked about this. One that comes to mind is the economist Seth Stevens-Davidowitz, who wrote this well-known book, Everybody Lies, showing how the internet's anonymity brings forth hidden desires and wishes. While people will sometimes lie on surveys, he argues, and to pollsters, they're less inhibited when they're alone online. It turns out, for instance, that people do Google searches for porn more than they search for weather, that they feel considerably freer to express anti-Semitic and racist feelings online, that they express anger, dissatisfaction, and other emotions more easily. Stevens-Davidowitz discovered other surprising facts about online behavior, such as that US searches with the N-word are surprisingly common. As common, for example, as searches for words such as migraine or LA Lakers. When people are online, they speak of things that are unspeakable often. What about spiritual or paranormal things? It may be difficult to seem modern or credible and also talk about seeing ghosts or communicating telepathically with dead grandparents, but you can do it on Reddit or other relatively anonymous sites online. It's for this reason that a number of commentators, including Jacques Derrida, have argued that when it comes to the expression of spiritual impulses in new media, there is a, quote, pent-up accumulation of force, a heightening of potential, an explosion of conviction, and overflowing of extraordinary power that resurfaces in these new technologically mediated public-private spaces. When we turn to these popular Reddit discussion groups called, called R Paranormal or R Glitch in the Matrix, you see subs that focus on, experiences like phone calls or other electronically mediated connections to a spiritual world or a parallel world, phone calls from the dead, or ghosts that communicate via technological objects such as computers or flickering lights, or objects that appear suddenly and unexpectedly, events that seem to happen twice, the experience of suddenly slipping into other times or places, seeing shadows and ghosts on cameras, and so on. For example, there's this post by someone whose dead grandfather manipulates and flashes the hall lights at certain times. Experiences captured or discussed here are interesting, I think, for a couple different reasons. First of all, they are framed in a new way. They're framed as glitches in a simulated world, with folks online kind of riffing on the sci-fi film, The Matrix. In other words, experiences that people would have once understood in religious terms as the return of a spirit or the presence of a ghost have now become a different kind of experience. Individuals are here borrowing eclectically from imaginative sci-fi literature and film, and they're piecing together a new understanding of experiences that seem anomalous. Research on digital religion has shown that new media allow individuals to be producers of their own religious narratives, as well as agents in assessing and controlling religious experiences and practices. And this is clearly happening in these Reddit subs, especially in Glitch in the Matrix. The result is that this discussion forum allows people to decontextualize religious images, symbols, and narratives, circulate them in new combinations together with sci-fi narratives, and mobilize them in different ways to explain events in their lives. This is possible in part because mass media today have developed into a more autonomous set of institutions, no longer mobilized or controlled by other social or political institutions, as a number of folks, media theorists and others have already pointed out. Okay, in what other ways does this Reddit sub Glitch in the Matrix structure new forms of religious experience and subjectivity? Some issues I talk about in the longer version of this paper include the following two issues. First, the sub's rules discipline the conversation in certain ways, and I have here a screenshot of some of the rules there. They discipline the conversation in certain ways so that the focus is attempting to explain anomalous experiences with scientific and even clinical diagnostic categories like hallucination or apophenia, while failing to do so in whole or in part. All right, and that last piece is important. I think that the mood in the sub is actually a failure to explain these experiences in scientific terms. And I think that this is a process that elicits sensations of awe and wonder. So in this way, the sub allows people to experience the limits of secular understanding and evokes feelings of awe, wonder, and the supernatural. So I think that's the kind of, if you want to call it spiritual, right, aspect of this or religious aspect of this. The second thing I point to in the longer paper, the second aspect of this, is that I try to take seriously Nietzsche's notion that, quote, our writing tools are working on our thoughts, and talk about not just how Reddit structures our thinking about experience, but how personal computers and mobile phones, the material media themselves, shape how we're thinking about and experiencing these events. One obvious way that this is happening here is that this form of media is making visible entities that are usually invisible. Ghostly specters caught on CCTV, lights turned on and off by departed spirits, UFOs buzzing overhead, and other incredible phenomena. These online fora magically materialize distant presences in beyond spaces. Another way we can think about the impact of these media is by thinking about how we touch, wear, and interact with these new technologies. Does the fact that many of us look at these things, touch them, hold them, and use them all day long in some cases reshape how we understand things such as seeing, believing, real, fake, supernatural, natural, mundane, and anomalous? And I think there's a number of different ways to think about this. The sociologist Mark Patterson has argued in an influential book on technology and touch that we associate touching with sensations of feeling with, a bringing near of distant things, and contact and proximity. Touch brings distant things near and creates both a physical point of contact and an empathetic link to things in our environment. Touching is grasping and knowing something. The question then becomes how being constantly in touch with computers and other devices is changing how we register things as real. How do we incorporate into experience new kinds of touching that are now quite routine? Touching keyboards, mice, touchscreens, app icons, joysticks, and other interfaces. We point at, click, grasp, start and stop, move and control ghostly videos and images online. We do not touch the ghosts directly, but we touch the thing that touches the ghost. And we are intimately familiar with that thing because we finger it in our lived space all day long. So daily computing leads to a recalibrated sensorium that is attuned to keys, trackpads, buttons, and interactive screens, all of which somehow deliver, among other things, ghosts that we can see, hear, and sort of touch, and therefore grasp. Thus, if we have reformatted media devices to be touched, media devices are reformatting us so that we touch and thus grasp and know things in new ways. Okay, so these and other ideas are expanded in the longer version of this, and if anyone wants to hear more or get in touch about this, don't hesitate to reach out to me at Vassar College. Okay, thanks very much.